This is a radical transparency. We're gonna be the first honest game dev, and I'm gonna pull in Isto right about now. If you don't know, we worked on a game over the past year. Isto has some many great videos on his channel about it, and it recently released 16 days ago called Get to Work, and it's done pretty well. We're doing good about it, but today the plan is to show you exactly how well and what went wrong and what went right, and go into the real details of making and launching a game. How would you sum up our year working on this game?
I think it's really important to understand how much context goes behind the numbers. So a lot of it is like experience changes these numbers a ton, right? We built the game in a year. If it was me 10 years ago, that's when I started building games. No chance in hell I could have done this in a year. This is crazy. Like, this is like a 3-year project for most beginners, if not longer. So I thought it'd be kind of fun just to peel the curtain back a little bit and show you a little bit of our pitch deck from like before we even started this project. So my initial pitch was initially about streamers. Now streamers are really driving how games are discovered. And a lot of this was already talked about by Atrioc. And so I kind of took this a little bit, but I added the game dev context. There really is a lot of split on different projects. And so AAA games are hard to make because they cost, you know, looking at you, Concord, $50 million.
Yeah, RIP.
There's tons of weekend projects.
Wait, can we say now officially, we'll get into the details, but we can officially say that our game has significantly outperformed Concord.
Oh, for sure.
Which is actually, when you think about it, crazy.
Yeah, it's
they spent $100 million. They had fully staffed teams of game dev. They had Sony's experience. That's crazy in 1 year.
And it's scary. Like, growing a big company has a lot of benefits, but a lot of downfalls, as we've seen. A lot of people don't see how many games come out on Steam because Steam has this filter that basically, if you don't have a lot of reviews or people aren't playing your game, they just like filter through and you never see it. But the number of games that come out on Steam is actually like incredibly high. Something crazy, like 1,000 games a week. And so we are kind of stuck in this indie little bubble, this little indie square here.
Yeah.
Where, you know, it's hard to stand out. So you have to be proactive about standing out. And part of that is marketing. Marketing is one of the big pieces that pushes you above the rest, that gets people to pay attention to your game. That being said, there's a huge caveat. You have to have a good game. And a good game is very nebulous. It can be
the easy part.
a lot
Everyone
of
knows you can just make a good game. Like, that doesn't...
Yeah.
Anyone can just do that. You just
need a good ideas guy, and then you're done.
Yeah.
Now, I thought it'd be kind of fun. This is the first pitch deck that we put together. We like to move fast, and that's really important because it costs less money. Like, you don't want to spend all the time to like build a proper character. You're just trying to get the idea out there.
Yeah.
But we had this as our like poster for like probably 7 months, which is hilarious. Unlike everyone else, you are not a sheep. 9-to-5 desk job for chumps. You're about passive income. You're about working harder, not smarter. You're here to climb the corporate ladder fast.
Mm-hmm.
That was the initial pitch deck. And of course, we had Roller Man. Fast and dirty, baby. When I put together this pitch deck, I didn't know how to build 3D games at all. And a big part of why we did those videos together was it was an excuse for me to learn 3D. And that was great because I needed to do that. And then I got a video out of it that did well. And then we built this association that Atrioc at least is willing to learn, because a lot of people just aren't willing to try.
That was the whole point. I mean, from my POV, this whole thing was supposed to be, I wanted to see what making a game was like from start to finish. I'll just openly say it. I did not expect to make any money back on this. We'll go into the numbers later. There's 1 million games released a day. The chances of anyone making money are 0. It doesn't, like, even if we make a great game, no one will see it. Who knows? You know, we'll try our best, but that was the idea. And so I wanted to learn from you, who had launched Atrio, like, what is every step of the way? I mean, you really handheld me through like opening Unity and getting source tree and getting on the right branch and how to like open up, and like you wouldn't let me, you know, I had to truly learn how to at least like make a level and test it, which I thought was really cool and felt satisfying. Even if my output was not able to be used in any way because I was totally trash, it was cool.
I think the wrong attitude is like, we're gonna go in and make $1 million, because a lot of people do that and then they get, you know, a swift kick in the ass realizing how hard it is,
right?
Because it's insanely hard, because everyone wants to do it because it's so fun.
Dude, one thing we did, I think is worth mentioning just for this video, is really early on, Isto, I think you learned this from your mentor Graham, it was like, we need to make sure that we have the exact same vision for what this game is. So we did like blind surveys of the same question, and then we got in a call.
The whole
team, not just us two, but like the other programmers. And we tried to make sure we had the exact same vision, because you know, famously a game like Anthem had hundreds of millions of dollars on all these people, but if you asked anybody on that team, on the art team or on the, I don't know, the microtransactions team or whatever, they all had different visions of what the game was supposed to be. They all had slightly different visions. And so it wasn't coming together.
Anthem, maybe not slightly.
Well, massively different, whatever. But like, that was the idea. That was the way you pitched it to me. I thought that was very fascinating. And I think it helped a lot because we hashed out a few things that we were like, oh, I saw it this way or whatever. And then from then on moving forward was like we were all lockstep on the same page for what the game should look like and what it should be.
And for the outside people who haven't coded before, it's like really, really easy to spend 4 months working on a single feature. And if everybody is working on different things and thinks the game's different, that's how you get development hell. That's how probably, and I don't know anything about Silksong, but like, maybe that's what's happening.
No. We take it back. We're not saying anything bad about Team Cherry here in our. We got one game under our belt. We can't start insulting Team Cherry, bro. We're not gonna be indie darlings if we take on Team Cherry, bro. They're gonna crucify us.
What I'm saying is even the goats. It happens to everybody. Yeah, we had the idea of starting your parents' basement pretty early on.
Yeah.
And this is so sloppy. I mean, this is literally like 3 minutes of work, but it just gets the idea across of like you going up ramps because like a little sketch is not enough and like doing a full level is too much. So I think we found a nice balance here of like, okay, I kind of get the vision here.
Imagine if this was the game that was released.
And imagine if it sold just as well.
Yeah, it didn't matter.
So sad.
XQC actually loved it. He played it longer.
I also pitched the idea as like a stretch goal to add a story, similar to the Stanley Parable.
Yeah.
Now we were a little leery to use the Stanley Parable because we don't really want people saying that in our store description. But as soon as we wrote the story, it was like the first thing that came out of everybody's mouth. They were like, Stanley Parable.
Yeah.
So we were like,
I think that was more because Connor's voice is so British.
True.
Regardless of how we used it, the second they heard the first line, they're like Stanley Parable. But I do agree that like that was the inspiration.
So there was definitely a chance where we were like, there's no other Rage game that has a story. There's no other Rage game that has like a ton of narration. So like, there's a good chance that we could succeed.
The favelas and the parents beating of Only Up. The AI voice rambling about the favelas is one of the great stories of our time.
Part of it was like audio events of some sort. We thought that like with the way the economy was going, and this was largely inspired by your like Marketing Mondays, where you're talking about drop shipping and like all these goofy kids on TikTok, combined with the fact that like real genuine people are trying to find jobs. And so there's this little disconnect between trying to make $1 million and actually getting a job and being genuine.
Dude, what's so funny is the amount of people I see who don't know anything about you, me, even Squeaks or people near, like they're just playing this game and their chat is spamming like aware and like depressed on something.
Yeah.
Which is like, I think the goal is to be more humorous on it, but I saw it so regularly, people being like, oh, too real. It's funny that people really connected with it, even as over the top and goofy as it was.
And I think as things kind of get worse, people want to express their frustration in some way that is more positive. And I feel like hearing the grind set about some goofballs trying to sell you Nyko Shade vapes is a little more palatable than just like going on TikTok and seeing someone actually like pretend to make $1 million and taking photos in like a private jet. I think there's some positivity coming from it, but obviously it helps us sell games because it's very relatable. So there's two sides of the coin. So we were originally thinking like no concrete story, but just like rough commentary. We changed that. Obviously there's like a very clear story where you like progress up to CEO. So that changed, but the idea of subverting expectations with the offer letter and stuff like that, we definitely kept in. We didn't know what we were going to do, but we thought it'd be kind of funny. And then we also evaluated the risks. I was sort of expecting a lot more Rage games to come out this year. Honestly, if you think about the time it takes to build them, it's definitely a lot less than like a multiplayer game or like World of Warcraft. But the big games that came out was Chained Together and a difficult game about climbing. And that was pretty much it that really hit. This was the biggest amount of work that we as a dev team would have to work on. A lot of the advantage of working with a more experienced team is we have code that we carry over. The list you're seeing here is the stuff that we had to learn for the first time. Building this caricature controller, level design, which we'd never done 3D level for, and then having like an audio system that plays like subtitles and works with 8 different languages. And then, we have to figure out, I've never recorded audio with a professional narrator before. Like, how does that work?
Yeah.
I had to figure out how to write lines and like work with
You
somebody.
learned so much stuff on the fly for this game, which is pretty incredible. Chad, I got a question for you. So this is the box art for the game. It is beautiful. Do you think it would be better or worse if it showed the bald character's face? We had some debate over this.
I was actually going to change it, but I ran out of time. I was so swamped those last 2 weeks that
Hey,
I literally
they all say
couldn't get
worse.
to it.
This is great. People love it. So I think you're dead right.
But it's too late now. Unfortunately, it's too late
Yeah.
now because now everyone has associated the game with this image.
Sure. I mean, this is now, the game is
This
good and
is
has a
the
good thing.
image.
So this is the image.
Before we had even started the project, this was like a budget estimate. And we're throwing out numbers here. Everything's in Canadian. But this just kind of gives you like a rough idea of like where I was at. And again, there's a couple of really, really important caveats because I know there's probably going to be a couple people who are thinking about starting their own game and like will use this as reference. And I don't want to mislead you. Number one.
By the way, speaking of misleading, I was constantly misled by this Canadian dollar trying to negotiate and work with this guy. Every price was quoted in CAD. I don't know. It's just random funny money. I don't know where it's going or how much that. It could be any amount. It could be $2. It could be
10 doubloons. That's the ratio.
like it all just seemed free. So yeah, that was my first experience dealing with the Canadian dollar in a business context. And it's funny because every time you would say the revenue, it'd be like, damn, that's big, but it's in CAD.
Couple of incredibly important caveats because these numbers can be taken at face value totally out of context and be totally misleading.
Okay.
Number one, the amount of code that we're bringing over is worth so much money. Obviously, it doesn't go into the project, but like if you were to start from scratch, this would be so many more years and so much more money.
Sure.
Right? That includes like we figured out how to port to Xbox way early on. We figured out how to localize in different languages. That's a huge pain in the ass. If you notice, when you switch, like when you unplug a controller and touch your keyboard, all of like the glyphs on screen like automatically update. The settings menu, we have controller remapping, we have like different settings and stuff. That all works nicely because we spent 5 years on Atrio. The other thing is my time is split. So I was working on Atrio updates, I was working on business stuff, I was working on videos, and so this number is kind of low. And I also don't pay myself probably as much as I should based on, how much people working at Microsoft, for example, are getting paid because I was working at Microsoft. So this number would be probably a lot higher if I was paying myself like industry standard, but it's my company and I am investing. I still pay myself to be clear, but I am investing in the future and I'm still like comfortable with, the budget and everything like that. So that's kind of like the rationale about where these numbers come from. Other thing was just me like rough guessing how much it would cost to hire someone to model our character and like software expenses. And then if we wanted to do localization, it would cost more. If we wanted to bring on a writer, it would cost more. These are all things that we're just kind of guessing.
Yeah.
And they always go up or down, mostly up. We started the project in October and in August, so this is 2 months until launch, and then we delayed it a little bit.
Yeah.
We had spent about $118,000, which is like roughly on budget.
So
which
roughly
is
on budget after 10 months.
That being said, we had seen how fun the game was. People were playing the game and were like, holy shit, this game's really fun. We had noticed people were just like playing it on their own. I had asked them to play test, and most of the time they play test a little bit and then they're done.
So I remember,
and then people were just like picking it up.
Famously we had a call where like I had brought the first test version of the game to a LAN party in Arizona with my old high school friends. I showed it to them and like, you guys try this game. It's the thing we're working on. I thought they would play it politely and then stop. But then I wake up the next day and they've already woken up before me and are playing the game, and then someone taught it to someone else who wasn't there the first day of the LAN, and they were playing it all day. It was like, oh wait, that's when I'll be honest, that's when I first like thought that you were right about how good the game was, because I don't know, it's tough for me to tell, right? And so you were like, this one's got real potential, like this could really. And then I remember being like, damn, yeah, they're playing it. That's awesome.
The other thing that's really important to note is like most of the time when we build games, there's a lot of floundering around trying to find what's fun. Everything that could have gone right in this project went right, which is like something I basically never expect to happen again in my lifetime. It's crazy. Like we had a working prototype that was essentially the start of our character within 2 weeks. So we decided to delay the game. This was very intentional. We were like, okay, we have like the bare bones of a rage game, which is like the standard across all of it. Not really a huge story. We had like a little bit of story. We had a couple podcasts written, and we saw how fun it was, and we were like, holy shit, okay, let's double down. So we decided to add the dunce hats. We decided to add way more dialogue with Connor. And we decided to localize into 8 different languages. We hired the Archiarchy. I spent a lot more money. I hired a mentor to teach me more about technical art, which is like figuring out how the lighting system works and stuff like that. It still is super janky, to be clear, but it is way better than what it was before. This was all very intentional, but we made a game time decision, and I think it paid off because everybody likes the dunce hat. I mean, it's one of those things that just makes you feel like dropping down to the bottom was worth it.
Yeah.
And makes you remember it.
I truly think it's the best marketing for the game is watching somebody do the dunce hat moment and hearing the song. I think people that see that finally go, I'm gonna take my wallet, I'm gonna buy the game. Like if they're on the fence, that level of extra polish and seeing like, oh wow, they went this far for whenever you do something stupid like drop down, I think that makes people buy the game.
So the one thing I think people may not know is this was very strategic. If you look at something like Only Up, at the very end when those platforms fall and disappear on you and like punish you, that's a very negative experience because you're not expecting it. And so what we did was we subverted their expectations by rewarding them for falling. We made it a complete voluntary choice. So I like intentionally added 5 slow ass rooms with like tons of dialogue being like, you can turn around. This is your choice.
Yeah.
And then there's a really long hallway with a hole and you look down and you have to make the choice. And then when you fall, you get a funny hat with, you know, funny dialogue and a banger song. And so like they would be kind of mad if they still chose. They'd be extra mad if it was like rug pulled on them. But then because you spend so much more effort to reward them for falling, then it turns into a positive experience.
Good. Yeah,
it feels kind of good.
Yeah.
Plus, our game specifically feels really good to do it again. Like everybody who beats the game is like, I wonder what the speed run looks like. Or they say, I bet I could beat this faster.
Yeah.
Because going through the obstacles and like learning it is a pretty satisfying experience. So we felt kind of confident.
I actually think every new player, the intended route should be at least 1 hat, because if you go into the next area right when you're there, you're usually not ready. Going through the first part and seeing yourself doing it hours faster is always a really nice boost, and then you feel good about going into the next part. Now you're sort of committed and feeling part, instead of like hitting a part, you're like, oh, this is too hard, I'm out.
We had players play the 4 floors like early on without doing like a bunch of the tutorial stuff, and it took them like 45 minutes, 50 minutes, an hour. And then because we rearranged and added earlier levels, people are getting through the 4 floors in like 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Just because we added like those extra annoying little jumps that everyone kind of hates.
Yeah, but they teach,
but they hate
you
it.
have to learn how to hit a ramp. Yeah, I think that was one of the most brilliant things you did. As I watch a lot of people play it, it's like they don't like that room and they fuck it up a lot over and over and it feels bad. You can instantly reset, so it's not punishing enough to quit. And then once they get it through, they finally learned how to play the game. Like they understand how to.
Yeah. So total budget ended up being 193K.
This is 133K USD.
So let's talk about sort of the stats. 300K with a massive asterisk. So this is fun. We can celebrate until we dive
This is
into the real
USD,
numbers.
by the way, not CAD. This is greenbacks.
So Steam
Greenbacks.
reports in USD, so I converted, but we're going back to CAD always. Cost to make the game was 133K. Like they report just the gross because they probably makes people feel good. People return the game. The nature of rage games is they're very hard.
They return
They're very
it.
punishing, and people just don't have the palate for it, which is totally okay. You as a developer have to go in knowing that if you're going to build a rage game, people are going to be mad.
Specifically, the Chinese. China definitely returned this. We'll talk about it later. We'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Steam's cut after that takes 30%. As you make more money, they take less, but it's like millions of dollars. We've currently, after 2 weeks, have sold 30,000 copies. However,
big 30K.
We have 7,000 returns. So we're actually at 23,000. I don't even know why they show you 30,000 just to feel good or whatever, but like it's incredibly misleading. The thing I'm most interested in though is the graph. So the graph here is the number of sales. Now, normally the traditional way you market is you put it on Steam, you put out a YouTube video and you try and gain wish lists over like 6 months, a year, whatever. Yeah. And then your Steam release is like really big, one big spike, and then it drops off. What we've seen is this spike, which is really unique to this game. Refund reasons, let's talk about the units. Is game too difficult and game not fun, which we were talking about this earlier when we had a call. This is fine. This is good. People didn't, get the game where they thought it was fun, tried it, and it's just too hard. That's what we are expecting. What we don't want is 10,000 crashes frequently. We don't want it's not the game I thought I was gonna get. That's on us.
Yeah.
Right? We fucked up somewhere along the way. Whereas this is when we started this, we knew that this would happen.
I could totally see someone being like, this game is too difficult once you get to middle management or VP or 100%. I get that. But man, I was watching a review recently from a reviewer I really like. All his footage was from the first room. It wasn't even too mean in the game. He liked it, but you could tell he only played the first room and he said it was too hard. And I was like, the first room is just put a little effort in.
Let's talk about this. So the other thing is we didn't talk about the streamer tax and how much it costs on your mental sanity and life.
Whatever can you be talking about? I don't really seem to understand.
I'm not going to leak anybody, but one of your employees messaged me being like, I feel you, bro. It's tough out there.
my God. My poor employees, bro. Quack edited one video this month. Yeah, no, tragedy. Oh,
I didn't say who. You have a lot of employees, my man.
I know.
Part-time, full-time, I mean, it could be anybody.
Unless it's 8-ish, I'm really not feeling for them.
Here's where we're at, guys. $21,000 after everything in earnings, which is fantastic. Where does this money go? Well, I'm very, very pleased to announce that I have recently just ordered 55,989 individual snack packs of goldfish.
Let's go! One for each chatter! Multiple for each chatter!
It's called good use of money. It's called business. Investing in the future.
That's what we're talking about. Snackies.
Unfortunately, no. It goes into future investments. So you don't get the money. You don't get to spend it on snack packs. As a responsible business owner, you want to be thinking about the next big thing.
You know, there's the first month of sales, and then there's the lifetime, which usually adds up, you said, almost about the same, right? So it's like you have this big spike and then the very long tail that adds up. And we haven't even gotten through the first month yet. We still have big streamers yet to play it. Ludwig's playing it today. And then there's going to be YouTube videos. So my hopes are high that like now that we're past the can we make our money back phase, that it's like, oh, who knows what could happen. It's all gravy for new projects.
Well, we actually know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Bald coin.
This has all been a crypto setup.
Yep.
This whole thing was a setup for an actual crypto pivot, not only for you as a game developer, because people love game developers that love crypto, but also me as a content creator, because people also love content creators that love crypto. So if you mix the two together, it's just pure fan happiness.
Chat, we are going to rug pull you so fucking hard. The game doesn't stop on day one, right? We work on bug fixes. We are trying to fix performance. Those awful loading hitches that you get when you travel between scenes that like gives me a heart attack every time I see them. But like we just didn't have time to look into them. There was more important things to do, budget reasons, whatever. So we're working on those because we have that extra budget now, and we're working on the speedrun competition video.
Yeah, and what's crazy is that it's me and Squeak sort of pushing the game forward one step at a time.
Truly.
Like I get the world record, he gets the world record. We're both innovating skips. I just think that's really impressive to see.
I mean, the only thing that kind of sucks is like, I mean, you're just pushing the boundaries too far that I think you've intimidated everybody else from trying.
Right.
And it's really dried up the speedrun community to just you two.
No, it's cute to see someone like Karem or Spectacore or Small Ant like try their little, but they're just like not close to me and Squeaks.
They're little skips.
Yeah,
they're baby skips.
Exactly.
If the game continues to sell well and like, we continue to earn money, we can take that money and consider future updates. The only thing, just because you guys are all in this chat and you've listened to this whole thing, is that we have to decide that if these updates will bring us more money or potential future revenue versus starting a new project. This is the thing that shocked me the most. So we were nervous about spending the money because localization is costly. You can use ChatGPT, but it's from what I've heard, it's not good enough. But China popped off. Dude, China has sold
essentially
almost
as big as America,
copies,
yeah.
which is crazy.
That's
because
wild.
like you aren't a Chinese streamer. Like you are our safety net, our anchor.
I sort of am the Chinese streamer.
True. But you think about our main selling points in terms of marketing, and it's you and all your connections, which are English speakers.
I got Xi Jinping to play it personally, so I actually don't know what you're talking about.
that probably helps.
And that probably helped in a lot of the country. We can't know how they're how they're learning about the game because we can't see really what's going on Douyin or Bilibili that well, and so it's hard to know like what they're expecting to have higher refund rates. Like what kind of marketing are they seeing from Douyin clips that makes them want to buy the game but then not know what it is that it's hard? Because I think most people that are finding out about this game through, let's say, Ludwig or through XQC or Rubius are seeing, oh, they're struggling with the game, but it looks fun. I like, they know what they're getting into. Whereas it feels like in China, they had less of an idea in some way.
I'm going to close out with two of my favorite clips from the first couple days that both encapsulate the jank and the horrifying scariness of releasing a game, but also the fun of looking back now that it's done. Plain and simple. We patched that pretty fast. I saw that and I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, I mean that's like if someone doesn't like you or know you, that's a bad review on Steam.